Hey, deserving listeners, it's time to continue our journey watching 90 Day Fiancé. Let's get to the show.
Jess, will you look at me?
Just leave me alone. Give me alone.
Jess.
Give me alone. Give her time. Girls, sorry, but yeah, I'm going to Colt in hotel, okay? I'm very disappointed, but because first time Colt in Chicago, I come back to the hotel with Colt. Okay, girls, have fun.
Right, so there are just so many other ways this conversation could have played out. Colt could have said like, oh, yeah, you can go out with your friends. I'm really tired. Could you maybe go out another night and maybe come back to the hotel with me since it's my last night? I don't want to be a party pooper, everybody, but is that okay? I don't want to be the bummer here. And then, you know, Jess is just like, oh, well, no, I kind of want to go out with my friends. And then Colt says, okay, totally get it. No big deal. And you're hurt and you're bummed out, but it's not the end of the world. I mean, if you're going to spend the rest of your life with someone, what's one night? So that's one way it could have played out. Or from Jess's side, she could have said something like, Colt, I see that you're tired. I get that. And I don't want to ask you to come out if you're tired for sure. But I really want to go out with my friends tonight. I mean, we all came down here, and I don't often get a chance to do this. And do you think you could just come out with us for a little bit of time? You don't have to dance. You could just sit there, and I'll sit with you. But I really want to bring you to this one club. There's a different style of communication that I'm exhibiting there, right? Not the one that we saw here that gives me a lot of concern.
Okay. Yeah, me too. Yeah. Thank you.
I think Jess is making a mistake. Colt had a lot of problems with his ex-wife, and I hope the same doesn't happen with Jess.
Bye.
Yes, friend of Jess. I have the exact same concern and worry.
Bye.
Bye. Bye, girls.
I'm not sure if I got the full stamp of approval from Jess's friends, but it felt great. Jess decided to come back with me to the hotel, and
You're not sure if you got the full stamp of approval from Jess's friends? I mean, from what they showed us, I don't know, maybe they edited it in a certain way. It seems like they all hated you.
I win. I didn't want to cave in just to make her happy. I did that with Larissa, and ultimately it failed.
Oh, that is interesting. That makes sense. I mean, it's not healthy, but it makes sense. So his narrative is that one of the things that went wrong with him and Larissa was that he gave in a lot. And we don't know, we weren't there behind the scenes, but at least that's his story, is that he gave in a lot. I'm guessing what he's referring to is as Larissa would get upset and would be expressive about her emotions, he would either do nothing or try to help her to calm down. I think that was how he would see it. It's like, well, I was always trying to calm her down. Who knows, but I'm guessing that's his narrative. And so he's saying, I'm not going to make the same mistake. This time, I'm not going to give in anymore. This time, I'm going to speak my mind, and I'm not going to let her, run the show. And I wonder if he even has a narrative, my God, I wonder if he has the narrative of, I need to be very controlling of the next woman I date, because women and their emotions, if I let them express themselves, bad things happen. So I have to really clamp down this time, and then things will go okay. Women need to be reined in or something like that. I mean, he's not saying that obviously in those words, but I wonder if that's what he's saying with what he's saying here. He's saying, well, I won the argument. I got her to not go out with her friends, and so this is a good sign. And oh boy, if that is his tactic in his next relationship, and this brings up a larger topic that people will often do is, and some of you out there might be able to relate to this. Think back to the past number of relationships you've been in, romantic relationships, and something bad happens and you try to compensate for it in your next relationship, but then that doesn't go well either. And then you go, okay, I learn and I try to compensate for that, and then that doesn't go well. Well, often it's because the compensation is just flipping to the other side of the coin. In the last relationship, I was accommodating, but I wouldn't call him accommodating. If you compensate by saying, okay, this time I'm going to be very controlling. Last time I was passive, now I'm going to be controlling. Well, neither one of those is a recipe for success. So if you go to therapy and explore yourself, then you might learn, oh, it's my insecurities that's the issue, and I either will deal with it by being passive or I'll deal with it by being controlling. But the real problem is what's going on underneath, which is my attachment worries and the way that I look at my attachment worries and the way I communicate my attachment worries. That's the problem. Not these various different ways that I cope with it. They're all not healthy ways of coping with that. Even though they're opposite ways, they're both not good. What I need to do is look at what's happening underneath. But anyway, yikes. I'm even more worried about him and Jess now than I was about him and Larissa, given what he's saying here.
You understand your boyfriend came to Chicago to see you, not to party with your girlfriends.
Yeah, but it's a good time for me and you and my friends and Brazilian party.
Jess, I'm not a person that will party all night. I don't want to.
So you just hear that tone. There's no reason for that tone. And that tone is intimidating, angry, critical, superior. It's a tone I've heard in therapy a lot, in couples therapy. And every single time, underneath that tone is a lot of fear and a lot of pain. But it gets layered upon and layered upon and layered upon, and then it comes out as controlling and angry and intimidating and superior. We got it when we go down underneath, then we get to the good stuff. And usually people like this have had a lot of reasons historically as to why they don't either acknowledge that or even know it's happening, and don't want to express it because they don't trust other people will hear them. So that's usually the cure, is to get down there, take care of them around that, and then when they do have those feelings, they don't use the layers. They just communicate from that place. There's nothing wrong with him saying, you know what, this is my last night, and I just really want to spend time with you, and I'm really tired, and I really just want to go back to the hotel with you because I just really like you. That's just my preference, you know, and you're allowed to have your preference. That's speaking from those primary emotions instead of doing the control. Anyway. Ugh.
Me and Colt now have it common because I'm more social, Colt more relaxed and staying home and video games, cartoon. Colt is boring. Today I'm going to hotel with you. Okay, because you're here first time. But give me alone now, I need to.
I think we should talk about this.
Please, no control my life. I don't like control.
Sounds like you just do whatever you want, whenever you want.
Yikes. I mean, this makes me wonder about what was happening behind the scenes with him and Larissa. If he's capable of this kind of tone and this kind of message, she's literally in this moment saying, I don't want you to control me. And instead of saying, whoa, I'm being perceived as controlling? Oh no. Yeah, sorry. I don't want to control you. Instead of doing that or just being neutral, he's doubling down and saying, it sounds like you think you can do whatever you want, whenever you want. But maybe I'm hearing it wrong. Let's rewatch. I want to rewind and watch. Maybe I'm not detecting what's happening here. Of course, it's a TV show, so it's hard for me to know, but let's rewind it.
But give me alone now, I need to.
I think we should talk about this.
Please, no control my life. I don't like control.
Sounds like you just do whatever you want, whenever you want. Just want some guy just to be happy when you just go off and do whatever you want?
No, I want to respect difference.
I do respect your difference. You should have your friends. I should have my friends.
Exactly.
But there has to be a limit. You and I come first.
Okay, so if that's all that he said, there wouldn't be much to say. But in the midst of everything we've seen, particularly towards the end of last season, the tell-all, we saw another side of Colt. I saw another side of Colt that I hadn't seen before. And then in lieu of this, then now we're looking at a constellation of behaviors, of things that he's said, things that he's done, that are in the direction of classic domestic violence perpetrator. Now, I cannot diagnose him. I don't know. As I always say, this show just gives us, for one, the cast members know they're being filmed, so they're giving us behavior that they know is going to be on TV. Two, the TV show edits it quite severely. So with those things in mind, how are we supposed to know the reality of these individuals? And as someone who actually works with people in real life, I'm here to tell you that everyone has a very deep and rich story. Everyone has a very deep psychology, and there's no way, if one of my clients were on a reality TV show, I'm quite positive they would be misunderstood. Let's just put it that way. So I don't know him, but I will use this as a jumping off point to talk more generally about domestic violence and intimate partner violence and high control relationships. I'm going to refer to them as high control relationships because I feel like that's more broad and applies to relationships where there's not violence but a lot of high control. But the other thing is, if you're a high control person, I've treated couples where one of the members was high control. When the relationship was strong enough, I just turned to that person and said, you are doing abusive things. You are doing high control things. I get where it's coming from, but I just want to label it as such because the victim of that high control messaging is also sitting on my couch, and I need them to feel validated that what they're feeling is valid, that they feel scared of their spouse, that they feel put down, that they feel systematically broken down psychologically. That's one of the things that happens. But so certain signs in these relationships are to limit your access to friends, because friends are seen as an influence on you that you can't control. The more you can isolate someone, the more you can control them. And there's usually a ramp up to it. There's usually like a systematic progress towards that goal of eventually getting you completely away from your friends. And one of the first things that people like that will say is, yeah, I want you to have your friends for sure, but there's a limit there, and I need to come first. So in the context of this conversation, what's being communicated there, right? What's being communicated when he says, yeah, you can have your friends, I can have my friends, but there's a limit, and I need to come first. I'll try not to comment on them because I really just don't know, and maybe I'll know it more as the season progresses, but I will say that it wouldn't be unusual for a couple that I was treating where there was a high control member, is that in the beginning of the dating relationship, there were things that were said along those lines of, I need to come first in your life. There's a certain truthfulness of that. It's like, well, yeah, okay, my romantic partner, they come first, and then my friends second. Oh, okay, I could see that. But what's really being communicated is, I don't like your friends. I don't like their influence on you. And when I have something to say, you need to do what I tell you to do, not what your friends, if I tell you to do something and your friends tell you to do something different, you need to do what I tell you to do. That's sometimes what it means, but it's not explicit, right? And then slowly but surely, you fast forward months and years into the future, the high controlled person has no friends, is in contact with nobody. And now the high control person, their rhetoric has increased to the point where they're saying, you better not have a friend because I come first. So you see that evolution of the attitude of, in the beginning, it's, well, sure, you can have friends, but I come first. And then down the line, it's, you better not have friends because I come first. Does that make sense? That it usually progresses in that way. And so I don't know about these people. I can never know. There's just no way to know unless I assess them. But I will say that behavior, if someone told me about that behavior, I'd be like, we better look at that a lot more closely, because one, for the victim of that, bad things are potentially going to happen. But also for the high control person. Usually, like I say, is they're looking for attachment security. And when they do that, the victim, like I always say, they have two choices. They can either run away, and then the high control person doesn't get any of their needs met, or the person has to go, okay, and agree, but not really agree. And so they're verbally saying that they are compliant, but inside they're not really compliant. And then the high control person picks up on that distance and it doesn't feel good to them. There are more functional ways to getting your attachment needs met that don't involve high control at all, and that's usually what I try to teach people. Anyway, boy, am I worried about this couple. Yikes. Hey, deserving listeners, as you know, I'm constantly recommending that people go to therapy. We all need therapy from time to time. One of the options available that is definitely worth checking out is BetterHelp.com. So if you're looking for a therapist, I would give it a try by going to BetterHelp.com/Kirk. Make sure you use the /Kirk because you get 10% off your first month and it helps us out. I get a lot of emails from you saying that you're looking for a therapist. As you watch these videos, I know many of you have been motivated to find your own therapist, but I know it can be really hard to find a good one to work with. Like I said, one of the options available to try is BetterHelp.com/Kirk. And you should know that this service is available to clients worldwide, which is amazing. I've been told that you can start communicating with your therapist in under 24 hours. You can message with your counselor anytime. Plus, you can schedule weekly video or phone sessions. And I've been told that it's often less expensive than in-person therapy. So go to BetterHelp.com/Kirk to get 10% off your first month of therapy today.
Always. That's how a relationship works.
I think Colt's cool, but Colt's boring and no respect woman. Maybe now I understand why no work relationship Colt and Larissa.
I met your friends, and they interrogate me all night. Questions.
Your past is not good.
What about your past? I don't know anything about you.
My past is normal.
I don't know that. I don't know anything about you. Maybe you have kids in Brazil.
You joke.
I don't know anything.
Hi, Colt.
All I know is you live.
I have 5 kids in Brazil.
Okay, so if I was to take a guess, I would say that he felt attacked by her friends. So he has that feeling of just like, oh, that didn't feel good. Your friends were grilling me. They didn't really approve of me. Okay, how do you communicate that? You just say, oh, honey, you know what? I felt like I failed with your friends. I feel like none of them really liked me, and I feel like they were assuming things about me that weren't true, and that really worries me because I wanted to make a good impression with your friends. You could say that. Instead, what he's saying is essentially, hey, your friends, they attacked me and it's your fault, and you better not do that again, right? That kind of messaging. Ugh.
I had the best intentions coming out here, but I feel like everything is just going wrong now.
I don't like the situation for tonight because for me it's not normal. So, but I hear you. I try.
This is hard for me.
Okay, so I hear it. You hear it.
Yes.
Stop.
All right, that was interesting. So I think that was definitely a step in the right direction from Jess's side. Now, I will say that usually on this show, I'm really rooting for the couple. I'm like, oh, I hope this works out because I'm a romantic at heart. I hope for good things for people. I see them really wanting things to work out, and I want the best for them. And with Colt and Jess in the beginning, I felt that way, but now that things have taken a turn, I don't think I feel that way anymore. Now, I'm not rooting against them, but I don't know if I'm rooting for them. But if we're to use this material as something to reflect on, Jess just said something that was in the direction. If she wanted to improve the relationship, that was something that you do. It's just like, hey, I hear you. You know what? I hear you. Now, I think she could have done a little bit more of that. I don't know if Colt deserves this, but again, if we're just looking at this in an isolated behavior of like, what do you do when you're in a conflict with your spouse and you want things to go better? One of the best things you can do is say, I get you and I hear what you're saying. You can improve on that by really proving that you understand, by reiterating what they're saying. Something like, I hear you, that you felt attacked by my friends, that you wanted to spend time with me. This is your last night. I hear you. I hear what you're saying. You don't even have to agree with what the person is saying. You notice in the way that I just role played that, I never agreed with the person. I just heard them. That's a big part. It's definitely the first step to resolving conflict is, okay, what are they trying to tell me right now? And then you prove to them, I hear you. I hear what you're saying. Then you can go to another step of just like, well, what do I think about that? Now, she didn't go into that much of it. Again, I don't know if the situation calls for that. I don't know how she feels about him right now. But if we're going to use this as an educational tool, then that's what I'll say about that.
I don't think it's controlling to want to spend time with my girlfriend. That's why I came out here. I feel like Jess just wants everything her way, and she's only happy when that happens.
Yikes. Yeah, I mean, when you put it that way, it's not controlling. But then you follow it up with, she just wants to do whatever she wants. Like, ugh. Yeah, people get to do what they want to do. All right, if you haven't subscribed yet, that would be cool if you want. You don't have to. You could like the video if you want. You don't have to. You could comment below if you want. You could become a patron of the podcast. That's really how we know you like the show. You can go to patreon.com, become a patron of the podcast. And everyone out there, please take care of yourself because you deserve it. You really, really do.